The weather today is miserable, the rain is hammering down, so welcome once again to The Spare Room. And today I've been thinking, who is the most famous trans woman in the world? And I think it's probably Caitlyn Jenner. And I have no idea why Bruce, sorry to dead name, decided to become Caitlyn. But I imagine spending that much time with the Kardashians would pickle anyone's head. I mean, look at Kanye West. He was married to Kim, and now he's fucking bonkers. And I know a lot of people think Kim Kardashian is stunning and an inspiration, but to me, she's nothing more than a vapid attention whore. And of course, Kanye was a prick before he met her, but that appears to be what pushed him over the edge. But the second most famous trans woman, I'm guessing that's Dylan Mulvaney. And if you own a company and want to wipe out the share price, feel free to team up with the darling of Bud Light. Now, it's not that long ago that Dylan felt so unsafe in her, because Dylan has good lawyers, Native America, that she went on holiday to Peru.
Hi, is this an okay time? Okay, surprise! I'm in Peru, and I'm at Machu Picchu. Isn't this just so beautiful? I'm here by myself, and I used to do a ton of solo traveling. I'm telling you, it's the best. If you could ever do a solo trip somewhere, it is such a good way to get to know yourself better. But I came here to feel something, you know what I mean? And I definitely have. I've done shaman ceremonies that were like 10 years worth of therapy. It was wild. I've seen a lot of llamas, and the people here are so kind. I feel very safe here. It's a little sad that I had to leave my country to feel safe, but that will get better eventually. And I am dying for some Trader Joe's rolled chili lime chips. But other than that, I am so content. Still haven't been kissed yet, but I'm holding out hope. And most of all, you know, this trip has me feeling like I'm my own best friend again. And that is the best feeling in the world. And I hope that you feel that way.
Solo travelling. Is that just a way of saying, I don't have any friends? Now, I use that clip because earlier this week, the Peruvian government passed a law stating that anyone in Peru who is transgender or non-binary is now classified as having a mental illness. And I'd love to imagine that the two things are related. That there's a minister sat in whatever it is Peru has for a parliament, thinking, shit, I remember when Dylan Mulvaney came here. What can we do to ensure that never happens again? Personally, I think that's a little harsh. I think the vast majority of trans people are just trying to live their lives, and the vast majority of non-binary people are just attention-seeking half-wits devoid of all personality. But it's the noisy ones that cause the problems. The Dylan Mulvaneys, the Jeffrey Marches, the Sam Smiths, and latterly the Bambi Thugs of the world. The people who ruin it for everyone else. In 2019, the World Health Organization declassified being transsexual as a form of mental illness. For me, the issue, though, is we used to have transsexuals and transvestites. Now, the former are people with a psychological condition, often debilitating, or they feel they've been born in the wrong body. The latter, they're fetishists. They are men who get off on dressing as women, but the two terms got mixed together to just be transgender. And that's when we started getting the men in dresses competing in women's sports and going into female-only spaces, often with a mind-blowing lack of self-awareness.
There shouldn't be this tension between trans rights and non-trans women's rights. I think that a lot of that is being stirred up to drive division and to divide hate. Most of the time, I transitioned 10 years ago, and you know, I've always felt comfortable using the bathroom and I've never been challenged, whereas I do know some women who aren't transgender who have been challenged by people. And so if we start talking about who can use the bathrooms, then that becomes a very, very slippery slope.
The way he says trans rights and then stumbles for a bit and then says, oh, women's rights. Mate, they are the people you are pretending to be. And he's never been challenged going into a lady's toilets. Mate, do you think maybe it's because you're 6'5"? Not only that, but a disproportionate number of trans women get convicted for doing terrible things to women and girls. Is it any wonder he's never been challenged? And I have yet to meet any woman who said she would be comfortable with a man in a dress in a female-only space. That gentleman needs to take his blinkers off. So it was declassified in 2019, the next year was 2020, and we all know what happened then. The pandemic struck, the world went mad, and to be honest, it still hasn't fully recovered. And it was during the pandemic I had my first run-in with a non-binary individual. Back at the real peak of COVID, when many people were terrified, I was in a supermarket and saw a woman wearing a shirt with "they" written on it, screaming angrily, "You can't make me wear a mask if I don't want to." Do you remember those fuckers? Anyway, I asked her to move and then got a lecture on pronouns. An argument ensued which ended with her walking away angrily and me shouting behind her, "You've got a cracking set of pins, darling." If you're not from the UK, pins is an outdated sexist term to refer to a woman's legs. I was being an arsehole because God gave me a talent and I intended to use it. Anyway, since the pandemic, the gender ideology thing has just got weirder and weirder. And I'm guessing in Peru, they've just said enough is enough. There are some people who are worried that this ruling in Peru will lead to conversion therapy. Personally, I think it will do the opposite, because we've all heard of conversion therapy, the pray the gay away thing, which is barbaric, where they took homosexual children and sent them to Christian camps to try and convert them to being straight. But I think what's going on now is, rather than pray the gay away, it's trans the gay away. I think there are a lot of homosexual youngsters with a particular type of woke parents who may hear say, "Oh, my daughter likes other girls. She can't be a lesbian. She has to be a trans man. Let's book her in for surgery." Because to some people, having a trans kid is just a fucking fashion accessory. But there is more good news. I posted a video a few days ago about the state of Idaho over in the New World, where teachers are now no longer allowed to use a student's preferred pronouns. And here in the UK, changes are being made to sex education to basically stop younger and younger children being exposed to more and more depravity and degeneracy. Here's the MP Andrea Jenkins laying out her case.
As a mother of a child of primary school age myself, I do not want him or other children to learn about sex full stop, whether that's straight or gay. I also do not want to see young children at primary school to be taught about changing gender. Whatever people want to do when they're older, no problem. You know, life's short, be happy. But does my honourable friend agree that we need to be protecting the innocence of children and their childhood, especially at primary school age?
Well,
So, proposed legislation will mean that in the UK, no child under the age of 9 will have any form of sex ed. Because why does a young kid need to know about that stuff? And when they do, it'll just be the mechanics. And importantly, gender ideology will either not be taught at all, or if it is, will be demonstrated to be a disputed topic, not facts. How good is that? Because I don't have kids myself, but many parents I know who have children of a certain age, those kids are all saying they're non-binary or trans or they, thems or zers because they're being fucking brainwashed with it. Sadly, it still won't protect kids from the mental illness factory that is TikTok. And I don't usually buy into conspiracy theories, but TikTok reports to the Chinese government, and in China, it's an educational tool, whereas in the West, it is all pronouns and self-diagnosing your own mental illnesses. So if I was to buy into a conspiracy theory, I'd say that in one generation, China is softening up the West. Do you remember the film Demolition Man, where in the future everyone is a fat, overly emotional, androgynous, crying, useless nothing, and everything is illegal? It's not so fucking funny now, is it? I know who this legislation will upset. Woke teachers. Of course, most teachers are hard-working people. But there's this almost subsect, and we know the ones with the brightly coloured hair and too many facial piercings. The ones who feel compelled to tell young children their pronouns, their sexuality and their sexual preferences. Now, to me, any adult that wants to discuss sex, their own sex life with young kids, that person is a wrong-un. Because if I, a straight man, became a teacher and began the day by saying, "Good morning, boys, girls and non-binary they, thems. I am Mr. Disgruntled, and I need you to know I am heterosexual. I absolutely love vag." That'd be weird, wouldn't it? Let's have a look at a TikTok to see what gender ideology actually does to people.
Hi there.
can either respect my trans homies, or I can identify as a fucking problem. And if I catch your bitch ass being disrespectful, your pronouns are going to be was, were. Thank you for coming, and have a nice day.
State of mind do you have to be in to record a video clip where you openly threaten to murder people if they don't go along with someone's often completely made-up pronouns? And do they all go to the same hairdresser, something I'm rather ignorant of? Or is it any hairdressers? Do they just walk in and say, I want a haircut, which screams, I'm a fucking idiot and I'm offended by everything? Next up, a trans rights activist giving us a biology lesson.
I don't know if you were aware of this, but everyone has a prostate. Literally everyone. But again, this is part of that biology you would have learned if you had stuck with it past middle school.
I don't know which school she went to, but no, women don't have prostates. In the same way that, despite what her ideology would have her believe, women also don't have penises. It's 2024 and I just said that out loud. So, to sum up, Peru, I think that law, it's rather harsh. I don't think all trans people are mentally ill. I think all trans rights activists, they're all mentally ill. And I'm left with a very strange feeling because I'm almost proud of the British government. That's the end of this video. If you've enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe. And as ever, thanks for watching. It's probably Caitlyn Jenner. And I don't know why Pavella fucked that up. I use that clip because the Peruvian fucked that up as well. 19. And the next year, 2020... we all know what happened. The pandemic's... what's the pandemic, you fucking tard? And younger children aren't exposed to more degradation and degeneracy. Here's the MP... Guess what name I haven't written down? Mindset do you have to be to go on TikTok and fucking just leave it there? What mindset do you have to be to go on TikTok?